My alarm clock starts going off at 3 a.m. every day. I've got to be here at the station at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I don't leave until after the noon show at 12:30. So it's a normal work day, but it starts really early. All right, I grew up in southwest Kansas on a farm. I was a farm girl, even worked at a grain elevator during my summers in college. In college, I went to the University of Kansas, where I majored in broadcast news, got a Bachelor of Science in journalism, and a Bachelor of Arts in theater and film, focusing on film studies. When I started school at the University of Kansas, growing up, I always wanted to go into TV and news. Growing up on a farm, my dad always watched the news for the weather because he was a farmer. And the meteorologists were always guys, but the anchors were females on the TV station, and I just kind of got it in my head that I should be an anchor. And that's kind of what I wanted to do. So I even wrote my own newspaper and covered the farmhouse news. It was kind of cheesy. But then when I was in high school, I don't know, I guess maybe my senior year I got cold feet about the whole journalism thing, and all of a sudden I decided I wanted to be an architect. So I reapplied to the School of Architecture at the University of Kansas, got in, and spent my entire first year as an architecture student, and I hated every second of it. But I know absolutely 100% I don't want to be an architect, and I want to be a journalist. So I switched back over and actually took some film classes and became a film major first, and decided I needed to be able to get a job, so I added journalism my junior year. While I was at school, I was on the women's rowing team, and that was a lot of fun. Got to travel all over the country, California, Boston, Wisconsin, Texas, Miami, Florida, everywhere. It was a lot of fun on the women's rowing team. It was a good sport, something I'd never done before, and it was very challenging. During my senior year at KU, I got an internship at KCTV5 in Kansas City, and about a month into my internship, they had an opening for an assignment editor position, and I applied and got it. We had about 6 assignment editors at that TV station, and I was the low man on the totem pole, but it was a lot of fun. It was my job to make sure that all the reporters and photographers knew where they were going. I had to listen to 17 different police scanners and find out where the crime was happening, and cover different court cases, and on the weekends coordinated where live shots would be. So after about 6 months, I started sending out resume tapes, and I probably sent like 50 different resume tapes out to we're talking video cassette tapes. This was a long time ago. We didn't do anything online back then. About a year into my job there at KCTV5, I gave my boss a 30 days notice, cut my hair off, put together a new resume tape. I moved to Abilene, Texas without a job. I had a friend down there with a house, and I told myself I could live for 6 months without a job, and I was there for 2 days, and I got hired at a TV station in Abilene, but I didn't accept it right away. I worked there for 2 years and decided it was time to move on to a little bit bigger market, maybe closer to home. I applied to a couple different stations, and I was intrigued by the one in Pittsburgh, Kansas, because the news director was from my hometown.
I tell you, the interesting thing was, it was 10 years ago when Tawnya and I actually worked together on Fox 14. But what's interesting about it is we never worked together. While we did Fox 14, and we were both anchors on Fox 14, it's a one-anchor show. So we weren't technically ever together on the same show until we started the morning news together, and we started that in mid-February. Tawnya was actually a huge factor in me coming back to KOAM, and it's not a story that I think I've told a whole lot of people, but one of the first questions that I asked when my news director and I talked about the possibility of me coming back was, I asked how responsive Tawnya was to having me, because it's her show. The morning news is, it's Tanya's show. And I didn't know if she wanted me back necessarily. So the fact that when our news director, Christy Spencer, when she told me that Tawnya was excited about the possibility of me coming back, it brought a huge smile to my face. It made me feel great, made me feel very confident, made me feel very welcome. And that's when I knew that we were gonna have a whole lot of fun. There's not a story or situation that you can't throw at her and know that she's not gonna be successful at it. She's able to adapt on the fly. She's able to ad-lib when needed. She does it all with a smile on her face. I mean, you can't ask for really more than what she does on air. And also too, she does a ton of things behind the scenes that as a viewer, you never see. The ultimate success of the show has a lot to do with all the people that are behind the camera, and Tawnya plays an integral role in that. I mean, as a matter of fact, she produces the entire noon news by herself. So you have to remember just what you see in front of the camera is really only half of what she does to make our show successful.
After working at KOM for a few years, I found it was time for me to go back to school and get my master's. And once I graduated at Pitt State, they asked me if I would start teaching there, and I jumped on that. Like, I had so much fun. I've taught different classes: intro to audio and video production, speech, broadcast writing. My students are great. I love to inspire them, and I hope I'm inspiring them. But I feel that working in the field gives me that leg up on teaching them, you know, what it's really like out there. I've been living in Pittsburgh for 10 years, but I did not meet my husband until the summer of 2011. We were actually both playing softball and ended up playing on the same team and got to know each other, and had our first date actually on 11/11/11, Veterans Day. Never forget that. Went to the movies. James and I have 3 boys. Dominic is 9, Leif is 3, and Garrett is 1. And yes, they are a handful. We do everything together. Currently, Dominic is playing soccer, so I'm in the role of soccer mom right now. Take the little boys to soccer practice with us. You know, we juggle. James and I play softball, Dominic plays soccer, he's in other activities as well. This summer it might be something different, but it's a lot of fun. Do a lot of family activities. Softball is kind of a big thing for us. It's always been our date night. Every Tuesday night we play in a league. Actually, our KOM team has a team put together. We do pretty good most of the time. But it's fun because it's our night away from the kids, our night away from work, our night together, and we get to release some steam. He's the pitcher, I play in the outfield. Well, besides softball being our date night, it kind of became the theme of our wedding as well. We took our engagement pictures out on the softball field and used them in our wedding. Our reception was themed around softball as well, so we had a picture of us on each table.
I've been part of the KOM softball team for 5 years now. That's when we started playing. A couple of the folks around here decided to put a team together, looking for players. I told them I didn't want to play. They kind of goaded me into it. But Tawnya has run the whole thing. We don't have to worry about having players there. We don't have to worry about getting our own schedules. Tanya's taking care of it for all of us because she knows how busy we all are. Tawnya can play a little ball. She's a pretty good hitter. Can play the outfield pretty well. She's a team leader. She's always cheering everybody on. She's the one that she sets the lineup for us each week. Could use a little work in the speed area. But other than that, no, she's a good ball player. She's a very good ball player. And does a great job with it, a lot like what she does at work.